Welcome back to Comedy or Worse. Hell yeah, I'm here with my very special guest,
How Tu.
Yay. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Just, like to be back in downtown during daytime. Usually we're here at night, like grinding, trying shitty jokes, shooting the shit, or getting roasted by other comic how bad I do usually. That's every day.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, what about you? How's the day been?
Yeah, good. Now I'm back on track. I totally forgot we were recording.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we got.
Yes.
Cool. This is going to record the sound, and that's recording the video, and then we'll put them together.
Okay. So thanks for inviting me.
Well,
I
thanks
guess
for coming. Thanks for reminding me that you were coming too.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really get invited. I invited myself to him. I kept telling him, "Hey, I want to be on the podcast." And eventually, I got put on the list. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, like just a full disclosure, everybody. Like, just because you're a comic doesn't, I want to get everybody on the podcast. But if there's comics that show up and then just disappear. So sometimes it's like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
There's people that are like, and then there's people that I have on the podcast and they stop doing comedy. So
I can see that. So I guess I'm still at the edge of almost sunny. That's why I have to beg the interviewer to get me on the podcast.
No, it's also a thing of like sometimes people just like talk to you and you're like busy doing other things or whatever. I don't even recall. Maybe like you're asking me and like the show's going on or something.
I mean, you're running too many stuff going on. You got too much stuff going on. Yeah.
I'm trying to like streamline it. Like get a list of possible dates and then send out an email and then people can just like pick from the day. And then I think what I have to do is set an alarm.
Yeah, you run some of the most organized mics in terms of how you organize the list, and you send a periodic email to remind, like.
Well, yeah, that's the whole. There's twofold for having a list.
Yeah.
So I noticed like other mics, or even when I first started, I'm like, I don't want like 10 people going, can I get on the list? Can I get on the list? Can I get on the list? And then like it slows the start of the mic.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have their names already typed.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, with the email, like you type your name once, then if you want to be part of the email invite, and then it sends them a link. And they click on the link and they choose, I want to do Friday, or I want to do Saturday, or I want to do both. And then they don't have to type their name every time.
Yeah.
It just fills it in.
It's funny because I feel like there is, like, the amount of organization and how organized everything is, I think as a comic I can reciprocate the effort by, like, whenever I know I won't show up that night and I've already signed up, I'll make sure a few hours ahead I'll try to take myself off the list. And it's not because I think I'm a good person, but it's just because the amount of effort been put in to organize all these scenes and make sure you send out like weekly emails make me feel like this person is very organized at his event. So I want to make sure I won't catch me by surprise by signing up and not show up.
Yeah, I've had like I think the max that I've counted was like 7 people said they were going to come to the open mic and didn't show up.
Yeah. So I think that's an effect of you being on top of it.
But that if there's 22 people signed up, that's not such a big deal. But if there's only 14 people signed up, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And the other thing with we're talking about comedy or worse at Quantum Brewing right now. The other crazy thing is there's Saturdays where there's more audience members than comics. But
which is insane, actually.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of times more like this comics will keep trickling in, and I'll be able to like keep the show going, but it can be stressful. It's like, geez, like, okay, everybody's getting 10 minutes.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
It's like because we want to keep we've advertised a length of the show, you know. But I've also like implemented like, oh, we'll just have more features, you know, and then that means less time for the open mic. If people aren't going to sign up for the open mic on Saturday or whatever, then there's just going to be more features. Like, we have to put on a show.
I think part of what makes, because I started attending Quantum Brewery's open mic, Comedy Awards open mic, I think September of last year, right? So it's been 7 months now. I saw the progression of the audience member start growing and growing, and now every week when I go there,
it definitely goes up and down. You know, there are.
But there's a consistent trend of I see.
Yeah, because you know, I'm not getting paid to do it, but I'm like collecting tips and using the tips to pay for the advertising on Eventbrite, and now if there's, you know, trying to also like pick who had the best set, either the audience picks or if no one votes, you know, then I'll just have to pick who had the best set and send them like $5-10, depending on, you know, how much tips come in.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of tips and multiple people have good sets, then maybe I'll even pick 2 people. I don't know. I just can't pay everybody, unfortunately, until, you know, if we can start making it from a free show to a paid show or something. But working with the new owner, seeing what we can do. You know,
I think the reason the show or the mic has been getting better is just you put everything like automated, right? An email list, everything's organized and slotted. And
yes, and also is part of it is being consistent.
And you put audience,
you know,
but on the seat.
Yeah, you be consistent, and that helps with the audience, and that helps with the comics, right? If they know, oh, it's always going to happen. I don't think I've had to cancel any show. There was one time we moved it to another location as an experiment, but it wasn't worth that. It wasn't worth the hassle. And it was also just a little bit of miscommunication because he was selling the place, and then it seemed like he wasn't going to be able to sell it. But now it's been sold, and the new owners are great.
Yeah.
I actually, on Saturday, you know, I had my own merch, and he agreed. I put, you know, there's Quantum Brewing rack for T-shirts, so he let me put up a shirt on that rack under consignment. So that's fucking amazing.
Walk in, walk out, and see the shirt, and I buy it.
Whatever. Yeah.
And you're always wearing your pretzel shirt.
Yeah, I wish it was a better design, but at least it's the foot in the door.
It's pretty good. I mean, I should put like a DIY or something, like with my name, as a, like, you know, and I just wear that all the time. Maybe I can start selling DIY merch or whatever.
Why? Oh, you mean like
How Tu? It's like DIY.
Yeah.
That's a joke, so I can just have a DIY merch. I don't know, anything do it yourself or a learning tutorial or whatever.
Right.
Something stupid.
Yeah, maybe like How Tu, and then DIY. Or I don't know. Yeah, you have to work on it, or maybe I don't quite get it.
Yeah,
How To is, you don't even have to say DIY. Just have it say How To.
Yeah, that's my Instagram.
Or ask me how to.
Ask me how. I do. You know, it's funny about my name. It's like I do too many of my name jokes, and you become numb to them yourself.
Yeah.
And because my name, I actually have thought about changing my name for a few months, just to get away from getting handcuffed by the joke. Because you know how every night we go to like open mic and you waited for hours just for 3-minute spots, right? And the moment host like announced your name, hey, coming to the stage, he got all the answers, How To, and you that get a laugh, right? And as I go on stage, I always have to waste 10 to 20 seconds to just say something about my name.
Right, yeah. You could always just try a stage name.
And that's like 20% of my stage time out of all the hours every day I wait. So I've been thinking about,
well, I mean, like that, whatever you decide, that's gonna be really refined, right?
Yeah.
Or you could even just start It's like I'm tired of I'm sick and tired of talking about my name.
Oh.
You know.
Yeah.
How to there. That's it.
I had a set. It was at Comedy Heights, and I was opening for them. The first 2 minutes, I was just ranting like how angry I am. My name wastes my stage time, and nobody would ever respect me because I have a very hacky Asian name where everyone thought was a fake name.
Right.
True story. Michael Red, who hosts open mic on Spacebar, right?
Sadly, it's gone. But
yes. Yeah. So he's one of the first few comic who talked to me a lot and like guide me, tell me where to go. We became actually friends. You know, we'd be on in the car together, just talking.
Yeah.
And 3 months later, one day he was a little buzzed. He's like, "Hey, is your name actually Hao Tu?" My friend, like someone who became a friend of mine, still questioned that. That made me realize, wow, if he's asking that, there might be people think that's my stage name when it's my real name.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of dumb.
Exactly.
Which I find it funny, but it's,
that's excellent. Makes sense. But how'd you get into comedy?
So when I was in Taiwan, because I was born and raised in Taiwan, right? And my sister was actually a stand-up comedian for like a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
Before she went out and do all the hosting and all that kind of stuff. She became a radio show host later.
Oh, cool.
That's why she got away from it. But she also did improv and sketch comedy.
Uh-huh.
I was never in it, but this one time she hit me up for a sketch comedy and I got on stage. So I was like, this is kind of cool.
Oh, okay.
But then reality kicked in. I had to come to the U.S. to like study for my engineering degree, which is my day job now. And that's always in the back of my mind. Because my early inspiration of comedy has always been watching American comedian. That's actually how I learned my English in an oddly way, or how I view, how I understand American culture has a lot to do with stand-up comedy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like George Carlin, you know, Bill Burr, back then Kevin Hart too, just some bigger name that only in Taiwan you get to see. And then as I moved to the U.S., I get to watch more comedians that are locally known, but might not be globally known.
Sure.
Then started watching Seinfeld. Like, man, I need to try this.
Okay,
and,
sweet.
Yeah, but there's the main motivation is definitely the fact I feel like as a foreigner and a Taiwanese, after being in the state for 7 years now, I would like to believe I have some very unique observations.
Sure. Makes sense.
That most Americans don't about American culture because you guys are in it. And
Yeah.
I feel like an outsider coming in. And I find a lot of humor in it, but I always feel like my language skill isn't good enough to convey.
Sure.
That's why I started doing open mics. I was like, man, I want to be good enough one day I can start bringing those perspectives into my bits. That's
Sure.
kind of my very long-term goal, you know?
Okay. I mean, you could try to start now and just.
Oh,
because,
yeah.
Just the wording and all that, will come over trying it, refining it.
Yeah.
Like you say stuff different than you write, But speaking of which, what is your writing process for comedy?
My writing process initially, because I was very self-conscious about my English skill, so I have to write everything word by word.
Yeah.
Then I would rehearse more than 10 or 20 times before I go on stage.
That's great. That's great work ethic. Everyone should be doing their homework before they get on stage.
Yeah, and I would write out in parentheses of the kind of act out or pauses in between the line.
Right.
Now I still do. That's a portion of my writing. But as the more comedy sets I've done, I've been trying to venture out a little and sometimes bring an idea on stage and try to say that and record it. Then go back and transcribe. It's very interesting because I've been watching a lot of comedians and I have very mixed sort of opinion about how to write. It's like I realized by writing word by word, rehearse and go on stage versus writing on stage, go back, transcribe it, think about how to improve it, you actually develop a very different type of act.
Right.
It's like when Louis C.K. and Bill Burr, they talk about how they used to write. They just went on stage and talked. They didn't write down word by word. Where you got Eliza Schlesinger, she write by recording herself on the phone. Where you have other comedians like Dustin Nicholson or whoever, they would write everything,
right,
and then go perform and then go back and improve. And you realize their style are very different, right?
Yeah.
And it stems from how they write. So I realized there's no right way to write.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've been trying to play around with that. But I guess us being having English as my second language, I think the bringing idea on stage and just talk about it, that part is very challenging for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
So are you having opportunities to like still practice your native tongue, or?
I talk to my family all the time. It's interesting to bring up this point because
Sometimes I just forget to ask people that speak more than one language.
because when they're in America, you just assume the kind of unless my family, because like I guess it's there's good and bad. The fact that I'm by myself here because I'm a first gen immigrant, so no one is with me here. The bad part is I don't get to communicate with them as often as I wanted.
Right.
The good part is because of that, my English speaking skill improved like crazy because I am always in the English environment, right?
Yeah. And
I can give you a great example. Is 2 months ago, my mom visited me for 3 weeks. Yeah, and so I brought her everywhere in San Diego. I drove her up to LA, whatever. I hung out with her all day and speaking Chinese all day. And I did this comedy set. It was actually a show for 5 minutes. It was Comedy Hut. And I bombed fully after just like 2 weeks of hanging out with her. Because I just wasn't like fluent in English. And it only took me 2 weeks of going back to my mother tongue for 2 weeks. I lose all these years of accumulated skill in English very quickly.
That's crazy.
And I think maybe it's me. I don't know, but it's amazing how that works.
Well, when did you start learning English?
In Taiwan, our education system is pretty good at teaching vocabulary early on. Like even in elementary school, you will start learning some words here and there, but you're never really truly fluent at speaking and listening. You might know like 1,000 vocabulary and then 3,000 by the time you finish high school. There's like a count of like 3,000 words you gotta remember, and that's for college entrance exam. You're gonna know 7,000 like of English words,
English
like
words.
vocabulary.
Okay, I thought so. Just making sure.
And they'll test you on like grammar, right? They'll test you like a sentence and fill it in, you know. Like he blank good, he is good, right? Like elementary school example. So, but I was never truly fluent until I came to the U.S. when I was 18, and then which is also another interesting story where my first best friend was a black guy, and he's still one of my better friends. Yeah. He hang out in the ghetto a lot in Everett, Washington State. Okay. So I would be this Taiwanese guy that doesn't speak a lot of English. 1 yellow skinned dude just in like almost like a gangster party, like every weekend. I was in community college at the time. Yeah, I'm just hanging out with. It's like I've never heard anyone have that kind of international student story. Yeah. And further, my jokes say I learned Ebonics before I learned English. In some ways, it's kind of true. I started with that kind of. When I first started trying to date girls, I talk like them. I would do those things like that and like let me holler at you, girl. Like I used to have a snapback, wear open-end headphones, listening to A$AP Mob, A$AP Rocky, YG, Tyga. I would blast them. Right. Yeah, I would walk into my community college calculus class while blasting my hip hop music.
My goodness.
Yeah, and everyone's just like, who the... And
that's interesting.
and I still did well in the class, so the professor couldn't say anything.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
I guess if you get A+, you can always blast gangster music on your way to the classroom.
I guess so. There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet. So, who's the funniest person in your life right now?
Funniest person in my life, I think still my older sister. She's
Okay.
always...
Cool.
She always has crazy stories. Like, she just went to Iceland, she just went to Poland. Like, she has an incredible amount of story.
Wow.
And she and I and my mom are very tight, so we got like in a group chat together. We always crack jokes of each other. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So you crack a joke in Chinese?
Yeah, in Chinese.
That's cool.
Which is... Sorry. What were we going to say?
No, it's interesting. Have you tried comedy in Chinese?
I've never, but my sister was doing comedy in Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Speaking of which, American sense of humor is very different than like humor in Mandarin. Very, very different.
So what's the humor in Mandarin?
Humor in Mandarin. I guess it's difficult to make fun of mundane stuff in life in Chinese. Also, what would be a great example? It's like, okay, how about this? Like, drinking culture isn't as big in Taiwan as in the US. So a lot of stereotype of people who are drunk or people who are high, those humor never really translate to Taiwan. And that would be a good example. And I think also Mandarin, the language itself has a lot of art in, we have like tens of thousands of characters. They're all written different way. It's insane.
Crazy.
Yeah, versus like in English you have 26 alphabet to form every single word there is. So we have a lot of interesting wordplay. Also, we have a lot of interesting old saying, idioms. Right? From Lao Tzu, Kongzi, like all this old, ancient figure. They would say some figure of speech thing.
Right.
You can make fun of that. So that's that's very cultural specific humor. If I explain it to the American audience, it's gonna take me a minute before I can set up a joke because I have to explain the whole context and translate to English.
Right.
And this is why I personally find it very fun to go through the struggle in me to find American humor coming as Taiwanese, where I need to actually acquire what you guys find funny and trying to find a way to wedge my Taiwanese humor and bridge that gap.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And it's always difficult to set up the context within 10 or 20 seconds for that type of joke. I've been trying to work some of them out, but
super cool. So with so many symbols meaning different things, so how many do you think you know?
In Mandarin?
Yeah.
God.
And what do you do
tens
when
of thousands.
And what do you do when you don't recognize one? Do you have to look it up or ask her?
Yeah, literally look it up. I guess nowadays it's better because you got Google Scan on your phone. You can scan it. Back in the day, it's literally you have to find someone nearby to how do you even pronounce this word? What does it even mean?
Right.
Like this character. We don't have words per se. Everything is a character.
Sure.
Yeah. I can give you a sentence like even just I like you in Chinese is 我喜欢你. And all four characters are distinct and there's almost no specific rule I can tell you how we formulate each stroke of each character. It's just crazy amount of memory bank we have growing up. Well, I guess this is why we don't have childhood. Because you have to learn 26 alphabet. We have to learn tens of thousands of characters in order to use our mother tongue.
That's crazy.
In some way. People are they're adults, like educated adults, PhD or whatever in Taiwan. They would have words they can recognize. That's how crazy it is, Well, I guess English too, right? You can pull up dictionary and there's a word people don't know, but it get exaggerated even more in Mandarin, especially traditional Chinese, which have more stroke than simplified Chinese. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's mind fucked. That's what it is.
Sure.
And yeah.
So, but hopefully that helped, have like an advantage of learning another language.
I think so. Yeah. I'm sometimes just not sure in the modern day, wasting all that memories, remembering every single character is actually an effective way to live.
Sure.
Productive way to live your life. This might be a little controversial, but there's a lot of art and history behind every single character in Mandarin. So, give and take, right?
Right. I mean, are they still making new ones, or?
Oh, there are some. There are still words being made for sure all the time. I'm pretty sure.
That's crazy.
But they are too niche. I don't think most people know or need to use them. Yeah. Maybe for semantic purpose, for historical context reason, they'll make up new words to explain a certain concept, but that's not. Yeah, it's interesting you bring those up. Now it's making me thinking about. I need to talk about those kind of stuff more in my comedy, because I've been trying too hard to like adapt to American audiences instead of, Yeah,
I think you talk about your unique perspective and all those things. Definitely help, I mean, because even someone else that has a similar upbringing, they are going to have a different experience too. The more unique your experience is, the better, right? It's going to be, people aren't going to steal your jokes or anything like that. Or you're not going to accidentally do a topic that someone else is doing.
That's true. But there, I guess that's a question I want to ask you. Since it's a podcast, we're just having a conversation, right? Like, as someone who's like new in the comedy scene, right? How do you juggle between maximize your funniness, write jokes that audience will find it funny, versus only thing you want to talk about? Because there's gonna be a certain point where you have to strike a balance, right? You can't.
Well, I think for me, the hardest thing is that I want to try so many things. So sometimes it's like, I'm like, sometimes I do comedy songs and like I'm doing different. I don't know. It's all very complicated because like I figured out early on that like, people give you advice and then you also like see, oh yeah, their advice really worked, or like you're adapting to the audience. I've gotten, when I was just posting stuff on Facebook, I wasn't getting funnier because it's a laugh emoji, or back in the day when it was just a thumbs up. Like, well, what does that mean? Like, so, but like hearing how many people are laughing, what parts they're laughing at, like all these things, like, make you funnier. Like, and also I'm trying to like broaden my appeal, like, and finding out, being in the moment and going and looking around, like, oh, it's hard to like sometimes like say, I've said, oh, you don't have to cover your mouth, and I've said it in a way that made them shut down and like not stop laughing altogether. But I think I'm getting better at like making that fun and funny, and I'm also like starting to talk about why I do a character on stage and do funny voices, and it's just, luckily it's just one joke and I can get, it's not going to take up the whole set to talk about that.
Do you think, I guess I want to laser in on the part you say broaden your appeal. Do you think in the process of broaden, I personally am struggling with this, that's why I think it's fun to talk about. Do you think in the process of broadening your appeal to the audiences, sometimes, not all the time, will be at the expense of you stay true to your voice?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to broaden my appeal without compromising the art. Because there's only so much I'm gonna, and also like I've done an experiment where I was able to like write a joke in a whole different voice, go up there, do it as a different character, and it started to work. And then, Kyle Drake's like, oh yeah, I like that joke. And then I thought about it, I'm like, oh, thank you, but that's because it's more like your humor.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting. But then I didn't want to spend any more time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the goal is to be able to like go up and do different styles or write jokes. I don't know. I also want to do more writing in general, right? Writing short stories. Like maybe the people in the short stories are going to be funny and they have a totally different sense, perspective, and they're going to tell jokes in story form to other people in the story. Yeah. Or like do sketches and have other characters have like a believable different point of view. Not just like, oh that's just Aaron trying to write different characters and making it not seem very believable.
I think it's also like philosophical question of fake it till you make it. It's like maybe at first they would think, oh yeah, he's trying too hard to be a different character. But as you keep trying it, maybe it will come to you.
Well, I think there's a lot of aspects of people's. Right? There's a lot of aspects of people's characters. Like I do want to work on like a character or just like a joke where I'm fake angry and like explaining people like you should believe what I believe, and here's like all this, almost like, or even like there's different styles of speech, right? Like there's what do you call it? Where you're trying, like a persuasive speech or whatever. You can even be funny in a persuasive speech to like where you're like stating your things and you're like, because there's comedians that do that kind of stuff. They like say something controversial and then they win you over and you're like, oh, now I get what he's saying and I understand why he's saying that or thinks that way.
Like Bill Burr, Doc Stanhope, they're all great at that. They're great at pointing out a controversial opinion and they start reeling you in, giving you reason why, and as you laugh along the way. Oh my God, you disagree with him at first. Later, you start laughing your way to agreeing with them, and it's on. Yeah, I think there's a lot of power in comedy when you get to walk the line, and then reel them in.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting up there and being silly, and it's like, I'm not really silly in my life all the time, but there are times where I'm feeling silly, so so it's like just an aspect. It's not, and also like I'm doing a heightened version of myself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where we're not going to talk about mundane stuff. And it's like some comics are like, oh, you're so funny just talking in your regular voice, and they don't realize, well, it took me 10 minutes talking to you before you laughed. Yeah. In
real life conversation.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of context of who you are.
Yeah,
as a person.
So it takes
That's interesting.
A while. Or there's history. Like I can like say, oh, I can tell them a story about something, and they maybe already have some context, either because we're talking about comedy or we're talking about someone that we both know, and then on stage it's like I gotta like cut the fat and like just get to the heart of it, get people on board, and have them start laughing as quick as possible.
Yeah, because when you're with your friends, they're already always on board.
Yeah.
So that's what's interesting about comedy is like you always have to like establish that likability, right? You have to establish a connection with audience very quickly when you get on stage. Then it's almost that's what I think. This like it's almost becoming mundane to a lot of comic where we would have conversations. I'm so tired of doing those opening jokes every time. Everyone has said that. It's like because those opening jokes work, but you're saying them over and over
Yeah, at
that
some
1
point you got to
minute
put them
is-
away and
Yeah.
either find a new opening
one,
joke or something. And then
You have to before you like.
yeah, because you're just doing this disservice to everybody. Because I've been doing jokes and I'm tired of doing it and it doesn't do well. But
Yeah, it's very yeah.
It's kind of interesting because it kind of goes with selling the joke. Like there's been rooms where I performed at and other people are bombing or not doing as well as they want, and then I go up there and I really perform and sell the jokes.
Yeah.
And I'm even having doubt that this is going to win them over, and it works sometimes.
Because it's in your delivery,
You
it's
know,
in your
yeah.
emotion
So it's like
behind
I don't really understand people just doing the same jokes and doing it the same way and expecting it to get better.
100%. Like you
Like,
gotta,
you have to, like,
you can say the same word.
You have to
change your
read
emotion,
the room.
Change your, yeah.
You know, I'm not saying I'm good at reading the room. I'm saying I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
You know, be in the moment. You tell a joke you usually tell, and then maybe make an observation. I posted a clip on Instagram where I started off telling my joke that I'm working on, and then people were on board, and then I kind of just started riffing, and you know, the minute clip is all just riffing.
Yeah.
You know, like I wish the one person was on camera because one part I'm like, you know, I said, oh, it's about like covering your hand, you know, your mouth. And I'm like, you know, you don't need to cover your mouth. You know, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to not laugh. It's okay to boo. You know, I'm like boo, boo. You know, and then I look and I don't even remember how it happened, but I saw someone, and I talked to her, and I said, do you ever like, you know, do you ever boo? And she said no, and I'm like, well, why are you just like a ghost? And it took a beat, but it was actually funny because like you could tell the laugh started getting bigger as more people saw that what I said was true.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, and then like I'm, you know, doing my silly little or something on something, and this one guy right here, he's like, what is going on? Or, you know, I have this, it's just part of building the skill set, right? They're like, he said something like, what is going on or whatever. And I heard it, took me a second, and then I said, it's comedy, you know? You got to be ready for anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes people could be up here and be really weird.
Yeah, especially if you're doing that with Mike, you run into so many.
So that's the skill set. Even though that wasn't written material, it's those things keep happening, and my being able to be in the moment, you know, like you see someone that does like crowd work, and really it's like it's just a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Where they have an answer for
it's
different jobs, or you a couple, or you know
a good one.
Yeah,
it's mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah, because then it's like then you see them do it, and they even have answers where they don't have an answer.
Yeah.
You know, like a miscellaneous one.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, like oh, that's not interesting. You know, like it's some kind of funny thing, and
like
then
a
to move
rebuttal
on.
or going to an act out. Oh, I didn't think I was going to get asked this question today, something like that, and that even making fun of the audience when the audience has nothing to say, that just bring the whole room up. Like, oh my god, this guy is quick, or this person is quick.
Yeah. Like
a great example would be
exactly.
I watched Ian Bag last week, the Comedy Store, and he saw out like all 6 shows, and he crowd worked just like 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
With a lot of bits like intertwined.
Yeah, exactly.
I was one of the main characters that he crowd worked with.
Oh, cool.
But he crowd worked like 10 to 12 people. He remembered everybody's name, everybody's occupation, everybody's like food choices, preference. And he played this like dating thingy, the candidate 1, girl 1, girl 2, girl 3, and that was one of the guys' side.
Oh, cool.
And he just brought the whole room together with just 1.5 hour of crazy crowd work.
That's cool.
Adding punchline to everything we say and we respond and start streamlining together almost like a plot.
Wow.
And that's when you're just like, because sometimes you see a bad crowd work. You're like, oh my god, just work on a joke.
It's usually
man.
like
And
it's usually newer comics.
Yeah.
It's like.
But it's nothing wrong because in mics you're supposed to try. So I think if you come in the mindset of I'm gonna not be afraid to bomb and try to learn crowd work, I think that's the place to do it, right?
Exactly.
But I think.
Well, I would say at Quantum Brewing, I would just hope that people stop asking who's a comic and who's audience.
Oh, I know that
because that really divides the room.
I am with you because I think it's
like I see seasoned comics still do it. It's like, what does it matter? Let the audience be surprised.
Yeah, I wonder if
I think it's an ego thing because they're like, oh,
why am I here?
They're not laughing. Is it because this person's a comic and is jaded or heard my jokes before, or is it because they're just not funny? I get the reason why they're asking. It's just, like
it's like what benefit you get by bringing out that information
and
to this situation,
sometimes
right?
people will, that will be their first open mic. So maybe they're genuinely an audience member until they decide to do comedy, So
yeah. So
anybody could try.
It's interesting to bring that up because there's also a fine line between when you're at even a show. There are shows like locally in San Diego where there are not a lot of audience members on the show, right?
Right.
And I mean, I think Quantum Brewery is basically a show now to me. When I see the audience member,
I'm trying to put the people that are featured first. And,
oh my god, when that room filled up, it's better than some shows that are currently running in town right now. And I'm not even kidding. The amount of audience member, I mean.
Right.
So yeah, you call the show, you call it mics, it's whatever, right? Like it's just semantics. But
exactly.
There's definitely an interesting fine line of address the fact there's not a lot of audience member in the room. There's art to it. I think you can find a way to address that without bringing the temperature down. But I think what most
you can even just say stuff like, "What about this? I recognize a lot of you. I don't recognize some of you." You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, and it could even just be you recognize them because they're comics, and you recognize, or they could be regular crowd members, like. So I don't know. We can't solve it yet, but we can just talk it out and see if we can figure stuff out.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot of I think stand-up comedy is very magical in a sense. We were talking about riffing versus doing actual bits, right? Kyle Drake actually, and I had a little conversation. I hope he didn't mind to share. It's like we were just talking about it, how sometimes in riffing you don't have to say an A-tier line. You can say a C-tier line, but that get an A-tier laugh.
Right, because it fit with the moment.
Because when you riff, an audience obviously know you're riffing, or it includes some sort of response to an audience that just heckle you, whatever.
Right.
Because even the audience member are on edge. They're like, I hope the comic doesn't talk to me. Oh my god. And the second thing they're on edge about is, what is this person going to say to that guy, to that girl that just heckled? So they're already nervous for you, for themselves, for the whole room, and they're just hoping the next line is good enough.
Right.
And
they want to laugh.
Oh my god, they're waiting to laugh.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can say this. Yeah, someone bring up like, hey, what do you do? And that guy suddenly say, oh, I move coffin for the funeral or whatever, and then you can say nothing and be funny. You like if you say, "Oh my God, why are you bringing down the room like that?" And then the whole audience will laugh at
right,
that.
Or what I would do is just like walk to the other side of the stage and be like that guy's scary, or something.
Yeah,
that's more like an act out, right?
Yeah.
But it's being in the moment.
Like, you pause. I'm just gonna talk to this side of the room, right? And then that would be funny.
Yeah, exactly.
But is that really funny in terms of if I say that joke as a bit, like, oh, one day there's this audience member says he said he's a coffin mover and I did this, no one's gonna laugh at that joke, right? So isn't that interesting?
Right.
It's a psychology.
Unless you have a character who just keeps doing things that they think is funny and it's funny because it's not funny.
Yeah.
But that's really hard to do.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. But there's like a huge psychology behind that instantaneous tension being built because of what just happened.
Yeah.
And that assists you in being funny, which is why I think you can also get caught in like a golden handcuff if all you do is riffing, you never write jokes, because you would think you are a better comic than you are, right? Because you always just utilize that momentum of the moment to get laughs. But when it comes,
it's hard to get booked too. Like you have to almost like get to a certain level where you are a high percentage. You're not, because it's risky to do that.
Yeah, the booker want consistent, good structure.
They want stuff that's gonna work, and crowd work and riffing. You have to be so good at it, and then sometimes too, like unless you're the headliner, like it sets a bad precedent. Sometimes now the audience wants to talk to the comics, even they're not asking for it. You set up a bad. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Actually, I thought about that a lot. I realized it's not like I didn't really know how stand-up comedy scene was before, but I've heard people talking about it, and from what I know, the scene has changed a lot in recent years. Where nowadays, even at a local show, or like actually the show I've been on too, it's like even the comic would just go up, like the first comic, second comic, they're allowed to crowd work. And I always feel that's interesting, because I think back in the day, it's not your right to do it. Only headliner get to do that. But nowadays, I think it's because just the popularity of crowd work, now it becomes even the first or second comic can go at it. And like you said, sometimes that condition the audience to think they can get drunk and just say whatever back. And you'll get destroyed or get handled, and that become the bit. You want to be part of the bit.
Yeah, people should be posting the clips that aren't funny and made it awkward, and you know what I mean, and where
that's so funny.
You know what I mean, like to show that it doesn't, because they're only people, even though maybe they subconsciously know that it doesn't always work. They're thinking, oh, I'm going to hit the jackpot and help this guy that's doing bad or whatever, or not even listening. If you just sometimes jokes takes longer to set up. So, yeah.
That's a good idea. Maybe I should just...
Or even just, you should even just like, even have like a separate account and like start gathering start sourcing. Maybe I'll start doing that. Just like send me the times the clip, the crowd work where the heckler is trying and then it doesn't go well. And if there's enough of them, then people they won't think, it's just that comic that's bad at it. It's like, no, all these comics are
majority of the time that don't go well.
It's not working, so why ruin the show? Just let the comic do what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Oh, I have a lot. I still have a clip where someone yelled out in the back in Purity's, a drunk white guy is like, "How big is your dick?" And that was when the first month I started doing open mic, last August or September. Man, I froze on stage. I didn't know what to say. Right. I was already nervous, right? Trying to stand up in my second language, all that, and now so, that's funny. But it's funny because those kind of bombing helps you get better, because I actually on the drive home I would think about how to respond to that.
Yeah, exactly.
And lucky me, same thing happened again from another white guy.
Sure.
And I thought about it. I thought about what to respond. I had a whole minute response to that.
That's great. See, it's part of it.
Yeah, and that night I killed because people was like, "My God, this guy just destroyed this audience member off the cuff." But no, I thought about it before. I know what to say to it. And I think that's when the reps come in, right? You have to keep going up to mics.
Right, but that doesn't, audience, that doesn't mean that we're encouraged, that just because you had a good result doesn't mean you should heckle and such.
Obviously, yeah.
Because don't worry, we'll get enough heckling naturally. you know.
You don't need to feel like you need to help
we don't
it
need from social media more heckling.
Especially when I'm a bad comic. My stutter and my incomprehensive language skill is heckling myself. I have this cognitive dissonance already. I don't need a third cognitive challenge.
Exactly. You know,
You just
stop,
wait for my punchline.
Stop asking people how big their penis is. That's that's verbal sexual assault.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey,
you're not gonna ask.
You're never going. Yeah.
You're not gonna ask a woman. Oh, you're wearing baggy clothing. How big are your tits?
Yeah.
Like what? No,
yeah, you got
that's
a pastrami sandwich down there. Like some shit so stupid like that.
like
That's also since you brought it up, that's also a very American humor. Because you asked that earlier and I didn't think of one. Now there's a lot actually.
Sure.
Race humor, sexual humor. A lot of those don't work well in Taiwan, as much as in the U.S. Because if you walk in Taiwan, we're all Asian. So there's no. It's not like in the U.S. race is a big issue, right? We're not worried about that, right? We're all within the same. Most people.
But how do you guys handle people that aren't the same race? Then don't they stand out?
They do stand out, and I guess.
Do you feel that people are racist against them, or?
No. I think Taiwanese.
Okay.
Taiwanese are really. There's almost like a joke about we treat foreigners better than we treat ourselves. It's like we are so
really?
Welcoming to people
That's
coming to our country, and we want them to stay. You know, hey, love our country, and
because of tourism or what?
This is very deep. There's a lot of.
Well, we can go as deep as you want or as shallow as you want. It's up to you.
There's a lot of problem. It's a very controversial thing, the reason why we treat foreigners better than ourselves. I think it has a lot to do with our political situation and maybe some sort of race inferiority that's innate in our
that's interesting.
Subconscious. And I wouldn't say it's rightfully so. It's not right. And I would definitely hope more people are proud of being Taiwanese. More people are just.
As long as they're Taiwanese.
Yeah.
Please don't be proud of being Taiwanese if you're not Taiwanese. That would be awkward.
Well, that wouldn't be awkward, right? Because like if you think about it, it's not supposed. I don't get that humor. I guess. See, that's.
Oh no! I guess it's because.
Okay, let me ask you something.
I guess it's more of an American thing because you wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be proud to be black because I'm not black.
But when it comes to nation, is different because America is a place where a lot of foreigners are still trying to become Americans, right?
Okay.
So it's almost like, in some way, I'm very fond of America. Why else would I move here and try to be a first-gen immigrant?
Sure.
So am I not proud of America? I am. Why else would I not? I'm proud of the economy and the opportunity it's been given being a U.S. citizen. That's why I'm trying to get on the pathway of become one, right?
Sure.
So I think you can be proud of potentially becoming a Taiwanese, right? If you want to immigrate there. So I think that we need more of that actually. You know, I'm proud of being a Taiwanese, very much so, right?
I mean, it's genetics and also how you were raised, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's also like a big problem with a lot of Asian Americans, right? It's like, I feel a lot of Asian Americans are still trying to find the footing of where they are in America, right? In the American society. You know, like, I find it interesting, the more Asian Americans I've met, a lot of them are not necessarily very proud or outspoken about how they're very confident in their heritage, you know. And I think, I like it's also very funny. It's like I find it very ironic. Like a lot of Asian Americans, this might be a little controversial. Like they don't like to be perceived as smart. They don't want you to look at their skin and go, "Oh, you must be smart," right? They feel like there's a lot of added pressure in them to do well. But then when they are getting asked by an interviewer, hey, are you good with numbers? They would go, look at me. You know, it's like yeah, when it's convenient to you, you take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Then it's like
they might pretend like they're smarter than they are.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when it comes to your advantage, you lean into it willingly.
Sure.
But but when you're like at the bar, you're not proud of letting the girl know that you got your 401k figured out.
Sure.
It's like, and I find it
that might be an interesting sketch, right?
Right.
Have like like either stereotypes and like job interviews and stereotypes on dates and just be ridiculous with it.
Yeah, this is what I admire black people. They are so good at utilizing their stereotype. Like, I know a guy who's like a nerd actually, but he could crack jokes in a bar. He doesn't actually play any sport, but he can crack joke at a bar and telling a chick he used to be a 5-star recruit, even that was not true.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Like they're very well.
Yeah, I think that's why
you know
some of the nerds that were black started like black nerd.
Yeah.
You know, that even that term was introduced because they're like wanting to like differentiate themselves and say this is more representative of what I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need more athletic Asians. See,
Yeah.
Now you are smart and
more Asians in porn, right? Shown what they got. Show.
Don't watch porn.
No, you shouldn't watch porn. No. You should make porn instead.
Be a producer. Oh my god, no.
No, like make like real, like when sex is real, it's actually kind of like interesting because it's that's really what people should do. Stop glamorizing it. It's like you should just watch stuff that people want to share, not
pornography or worse.
Anyway, let's move on.
Off-brand.
So I asked this question of everybody. I don't always know the answer, but when did we meet?
Beginning of September last year at your no, not your open mic. We met in Lestats first.
Yes.
That's Lestats open mic on a Monday. So that wasn't your show.
That's
today.
Another
show.
Another Lestats will happen today.
And I was like, who is this guy out here doing pretzel joke? Yeah. Yeah, and I remember you were very welcoming to me because I was obviously new, but you didn't distance yourself from me. You were just genuinely a nice person. It's not even comedian, just nice. I think. I try to be nice. Yeah, and I think it's important to just be a genuinely decent person before trying to become a really good comic, right? Yeah. Definitely. I think it helps, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Have you ever traveled to do comedy?
Travel?
Yeah.
I would love to. English comedy is actually kind of big in Taiwan now. So when I do go back to Taiwan end of this year during Christmas, I might go try to hit up those English only club, and I might even try Chinese comedy. Just go to some open mic and because different sense of humor. Maybe bomb a little in my mother tongue. Maybe it's even. I wonder if it's gonna feel way worse to bomb in your mother tongue.
You're like, oh my god, I didn't have any barriers and I still failed.
Exactly, because if I bomb in America, there's always a fail safe in the back of my mind. Oh, at least it's my second language.
Right.
And people would like give me props like, oh my god, I can't believe you're doing this in your non-mother tongue. Right. And I know that give him like almost an edge of make people feel like I'm more impressive. Yeah. So I would love to bomb in my mother tongue just to get to the bottom of bombing and really know if I am cut off for this art or not.
Sure. What about accents? When you haven't spoke Mandarin in a while, do you feel like your accent is rusty, or you just flow right back into it? Oh
no, I don't have any accent when I speak Mandarin. It's just
You don't have an accent when you speak Mandarin?
Not a foreign accent. Like sounds like because it's my mother tongue. Like I've only been in the state for 7 years, so 23 years of my life I've been in Taiwan. That's right. So English is the main problem.
Sure. Like
even now you can hear accent, but if I go back to Taiwan for a month, You'll see. I'll see. Beginning of 2026, when I come back from Christmas, I'll talk to you. You be like, I can't understand you. Probably for a month before I get back to.
You should find people to call on the phone or something and speak English.
I'll call you then.
Okay, just to keep in the habit. Yeah.
Using you as my personal English tutor. At least I'll have get a funny tutor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if I'm not able to answer the phone, just leave a voicemail, and I'll be like, okay, that was pretty good.
Aaron is already setting the condition up, so he
no,
has an excuse for not answering.
No, it's just I would say that I don't really call people a lot, and
really,
I'm trying to get better at it. Yeah, it's like when's the
modern society?
Yeah, it was like when's a good time to call? Or,
I know.
Because people call me at random times, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of busy, but I guess I'll pick up the phone.
But at some point, I guess I used to feel that's annoying, but then I started reframing my mindset. I'm like, if this person is trust me enough to just call me and think I'll pick up, I think that's a compliment. In some way.
Sure, no, I think just like a text sometimes is helpful.
Because you're maybe in the meeting.
Because I definitely I've called people and they're like, why are you calling at this time? I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. Time differences and different people's schedules and such.
I think it's because when you call someone, even if they're busy, and they don't pick up at the time, that's fine. But at least it shows a missed call that indicate, hey, I want to talk.
Right.
So, and then whether that person call back usually is an indication of whether you guys are close enough now. Sometimes I feel like that's a good filtering system. If someone doesn't pick up my phone call, I know I can trust them to a certain extent. I'm looking into friendship and all the other philosophies.
No, that's fine. So do you have any hobby or passions that aren't related to comedy?
Oh yeah, I lately I've been not training much, but I try to train Muay Thai at least like twice a week. So I'm into that training, just getting physically healthy. That's my hobby. I've been trying to play piano a little lately, actually. I used to play a little, and lately try to pick it back up.
Yeah, that's cool.
I do a little improv. I do improv at Mockingbird Theater.
Nice.
I'm at level 5 class now, so I've been doing that for 8 months now. Hopefully, I think we're talking about starting an indie team.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully we'll follow through, but if not, I'll just keep taking improv classes, right? I think it's very important to get out of your comfort zone and just. I think it's also a great way for me to meet different kind of people outside of as an engineer during the day. The friend I have is a very different friend group in comedy, in improv,
right,
and in my Muay Thai gym too. So they're all very diverse, cool. And I enjoy diversity in my life, so I can learn different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Oh yeah. Do you wish you started comedy earlier?
No. I think there's a lot of things in my life I had to get to this point before I can start.
All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So what are your
job, being an immigrant, get my work visa.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff I need to figure out before I can set my footing in the U.S. enough to know I can try my hobby.
Right. Well, I mean, you could have maybe started it in Taiwan.
Maybe I could have, but I think worry about shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's not very healthy. So I'm not too worried about it. Yeah.
Sure, makes sense. So, what are your goals in comedy?
It changed all the time. When I started, I just want to overcome my fear because I always know getting on stage is, terrifying.
Yeah.
And then later it became, okay, how do I just get better at the art because I'm into getting people laughs. I love the validation and attention, right? And there's that evolve. I no longer crave the attention. It's now how can I try to deliver a message while being funny? And I guess the end goal is what I talked about earlier is I hope I can actually bring a lot of my observation on stage, bring it to fruition. Make it funny and get people on board. I think there's a lot of beauty in that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's
I
great.
try not to always lean in too much on Asian stereotype joke. I've been trying to. This is something I've been wrestling with as a comic for sure.
That makes sense.
And I'm still trying to grow out of that voice and hopefully be better than that. Sometimes a cheap laugh is a laugh, but at the end of the day, that take away your stage time that for something you can develop maybe more profound.
Yeah. I would just try to start with your best joke first. Do the stuff you're working on in the middle, and then close with your second best joke.
Yeah.
And then, and those could change. Like something that was in the middle could become the beginning.
Yeah.
It's really fully worked out, right? And then you can even do brand new jokes in the middle. Even like on a show, you can do that. You can do a little bit of brand new material you just thought of, but just try to put it in the middle because you don't know how it's going to go.
I noticed it's interesting. It's like there always need to be a voice consistency in your set. Like your character, your persona has to be consistent for the audience to don't feel like, wait, I thought he was this guy. Why does he suddenly become this cynical guy? I thought he was a likable guy that telling about his little fucked up in his life, and all of a sudden he's complaining about you Americans sucks. I've noticed if I do some very Asian joke of self-deprecating accent or whatever, then I go into a more cynical, observational, big picture, complaining about America, then there's inconsistency. And I believe every comic struggle with this. It's the voicing. It's like there are existing jokes that work so well, but it's handcuffing you to that persona you cannot get away with. So even between then, you can insert that new joke, but it's not gonna go well because of the voice.
Sure, but consider this: what if you say something and it's not working, and then you just do a quick, well, that's not working. Let's try something else, and then it allows you to switch tone. Even you can, you know what I mean? Because there's times where I noticed, oh, my puns aren't going well. I'm like, let me do something else, and then later on, I realized I just did more puns, different puns, and that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
So I should have doing clean puns, those aren't working. Okay, now I got to go dirty. Maybe just try different things, be in the moment, and try to get the feedback from the audience.
Yeah, that's the fun part, right? Sometimes what I think was true about comedy gets shatters in one single night of performance. You know what I mean? Yeah. You thought you understood, you figured this part out, until that one night go a different direction. It could be going better or worse, but they both shatter your expectation, and then you learn something very nuanced.
Well, yeah, it's people should learn right away that every audience is different, and you shouldn't just if a joke doesn't work, and you believe in it, try it more than once.
Yeah. Don't
just throw it away.
Oh,
after one time.
That has been the greatest advice I've received. Michael Hall, great comic.
Yeah.
My inspiration. He's one of the few veteran comics that talked to me very early on, like October or September of last year. He saw it on a set. He brought me out. He's like, "You're funny," and he started talking to me about his experience, what he thinks about comedy. Me and him actually texting each other or whatever. We share a lot about. He would share with me a lot of his thought process, and we actually talk about this. It's like, a lot of comics throw away their jokes because some other comics tell them to throw it away, like cut it out or don't do it anymore. But Michael Hall and you, both of you, are saying the opposite. It's like if you find it funny, there's something in there. Even it bombed twice, 3 times. Well, at some point you have to assess. But don't throw away just yet.
Right. And you have to go, well, why didn't it work? Was it the audience? Is it can be phrased better? Yeah. Or I realized that if I sell these jokes, they do better.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, then how would I ever go up there and not sell them then?
Yeah.
You always want to try to do your best anyway.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite joke right now? It could be anybody's joke.
I don't remember the exact delivery. Just recently, I went and watched Kamel Bell in Mic Drop, and but it was the opener that got the best joke for me. It was Dwayne Kennedy. He made fun of triangle player in the orchestra. He's like, who the hell is playing triangle? If you're like, he's just making fun of like how funny it is. That's your profession to play a ding ding, and he did the whole act out. And I don't remember the exact joke, but what stood out to me about that joke was he did that bit for 2 minutes, a round and a half, and then some of his tags started falling flat, and just as you thought the joke is dying, and I would say from a lot of comedy I've been consuming, most comic would have ditched that bit by then and just end it there and go to another joke. He actually make a twist and say, oh, what if in another parallel universe, like a triangle player is a rock star? And I'm not going to spoil the joke.
Sure.
But man, that brought the whole triangle idea back to life. And it becomes I think as a comic, you appreciate even more the fact he stretched out the joke and find different twists to it and make it a longer bit just as you think it's about to die.
Yeah.
Because as a comic, especially with us, we only get, not us, me, sorry, you're maybe more seasoned. For me, though, I only get 3 minutes, 4 minutes at a time. You know how difficult it is to grind out a joke that's been stretched out like that.
Right.
And you know this is a guy who worked on his craft for like decades that are able to stretch a joke. So that's what stood out to me lately.
Oh, that's so super cool.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have like a favorite fan interaction? Either you were a fan of somebody or someone was a fan of you.
Quantum. It was my November, October of last year. I did the first time I did a feature set on your show, and it was actually I was actually getting put toward the end as a feature, but there were still a few audience members there, and I know there's a table of audience member, a couple. They were here the whole night, and then even though there were only 5 or 6 audience members, I did my full act. I have this kung fu bit, which I don't do anymore. I'm not very proud of that bit, but for like stereotype reason. But right. I put my all into that performance for that 10 minutes, even though there was only 5 real audience members.
Exactly.
And those 5 were all laughing the whole time. And then by the end, those 2 audience members after they talked to you. I don't know if you noticed, they actually kind of pulled me to the side, so we're a little distance from everybody. The guy and the girl was just like, hey, we just want to pull you aside and tell you because we don't want other people to hear. You were the funniest tonight, and we had such a good time. Thank you. Yeah. And that's the moment I was like, I'm gonna keep going.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because I remember that. Like we were. I think that was the first time you were featuring there, and wasn't sure. And I think I had like a guest host.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, it was like a dynamic and complicated situation, and then even the guest host that wasn't so had even more doubt of your ability was like, oh yeah, he did good. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I would put me last too, so I don't think that's complicated. Yeah. If I don't, like, who am I, like, I'm just grateful to have time. I honestly, like,
right, the
community in San Diego, it's so amazing, so welcoming. I think the community reward merit. What I say merit is like, I think when I put work into my writing and try to perform my best ability, I think people really appreciate and recognize that, and right. That's what I'm grateful about. It's like they don't judge me from just a sheer. Also, don't you think it's funny? I guess it's funny. People ask how long have you been doing comedy, when time versus stage time is I can be doing it for 5 years, but I hit mic once a week. Or right. I can be doing it for 6 months, but I hit 7 mics a week.
Right.
And I write an hour every day. I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying, like, if that's the case, like, so saying years.
Yeah, but not everybody's like, Taryn Heffley or somebody that's, or you know, or even Seabass is like keeping track of like how many times they performed and such.
I used to until like the moment I hit more than 100, I was like, I can't count anymore. It's like you just keep going up, and just sometimes you even forget you did a mic that day because you went up and tried very new stuff. You're like, whatever, and you go home, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's cool. So, what's your favorite place to do comedy?
my favorite place.
Yeah.
Whew. Venue I've ever done. You would say?
Yeah.
For now, I would say a good night at a comedy store. I mean, obviously that's one of the best. Yeah, a good night at a comedy store.
All right, cool.
I think that's the right answer.
No, just asking everybody, getting different answers.
Well, you can say that day at Quantum I have the best night, so it's hard to like, you know, it's hard. You feel differently about every venue. There's no best objectively. I think they're all good in their way.
Well, I mean that's why it's favorite, not best, right?
God, I cannot pick one.
Yeah, well that's fine. Oh, yeah. So what's the worst thing about comedy right now?
Worst.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you an answer.
Okay. I'm just trying to make noise so the audio listeners realize that
freezing the screen.
We're still recording. You just have to think sometimes.
Personally, I don't like a roasting based show. Meaning, I don't like when a host utilize roasting the comic that just went up to get laughs.
Yeah.
I get the roast culture. I get the roast. I'm doing roast battle with Wes actually in May, so it's not like I don't like roast, but I think there are better ways to do it as a host. Because if you roast other comics to get laughs, it's almost like you're turning this into your personal show, rather than try to uplift other comics. And
okay, I get that, but if you're thinking about as a host, your job is to make the show entertaining, and like say that someone, you know, brings the show down in whatever form, like they're funny but they're sad.
Okay,
you know,
I get that.
Or you know what I mean?
If they're obviously like
sometimes you gotta like bring the energy back up and remind people this is a show, and
I should provide context.
Yeah.
I think if obviously a comic was not doing well, not because they were really dark or really overly edgy just for the sake of being edgy and attack the audience, then you almost have the right to go ahead and roast them a little because they brought it onto themselves. Right. But if this comic was obviously trying a joke that's not really offensive, it's just the punchline didn't land. It's about that guy's personal story and the funny just wasn't there. I think then he hasn't been warranted to be attacked, right? And and because then you would have comics who are not roasting in their nature, who could have potential to be funny, but because of that, they don't want to do comedy anymore. But you can also the counter argument could be, hey, maybe this person just didn't have the stomach to stay in the game. That I agree at a certain extent, right? So I understand both sides of the argument, but I just think there are better ways to bring up the situation by maybe do a tag or do a callback on one of the things that comic just said, even though it didn't work for their side. Maybe you can find something that worked with the story that didn't land the joke. That would be a more intelligent way to crack a joke and bring up the room, right? Because I think sometimes a roast is like a fail-safe, and if you do it too much, it's obviously, you know, you're just roasting. So, yeah. So I'm very conflicted in this.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, but you have to understand too that there's comics that's what they do.
Yeah.
Like a lot, and at first I was more like, oh, it's kind of silly to just keep doing the same like roast every time of certain people, and then I was like really thinking about it. It's like, well, they do it because it works, and it keeps the show fun, and there's people that have, even in the audience that aren't comics, that have heard them do that same, roast, quick little roast, and they keep coming back to the show. So that's what we need. We need people to come to the live comedy shows. So whatever
do you not think that will also cause a ripple effect of an ecosystem audience just always want the comics to get roasted? Like, I'll get what you're saying. I'm just saying the other side of the argument could be it's almost like crowd work. You also feed into the ecosystem, the audience, and what their comedy tastes are. And maybe you actually drive away people who don't appreciate that. So
well, comedy is subjective, so it's hard to please everybody.
Yeah, so I guess by choosing to roast, you choose a lane already for what the audience you want. And for me, I guess I want the other side of the audience, right?
Right.
I think this is an opinion. I don't.
Yeah. I'm just trying to picture what it would be like. Okay, if a comic is like treating every comic different, then you start to be like, oh, well, wow, San Diego's really cliquey. You know what I mean? Like, from an audience member, oh, he obviously doesn't like that guy because, like, he roasted him, and then the next guy, he said something funny that's nice. You know what I mean? Like, it's better if he just roasts everybody. Does that make sense?
Or not having to. Just make intelligent or better jokes.
Right. I mean, there's times where I just like bring up the next person. Just bring up the next person.
Anybody really?
Occasionally,
not
I
a hard roast. Like you do a soft tag, but I never seen you really roast. And that's what I almost appreciate.
I think last week I just was annoyed with Wes.
But you know him.
And I roasted him about using notes, but it was just a light one.
I also think there's a difference between.
But actually, that was funnier. I mean, that was different too because he wasn't even off stage yet. It was more like a heckle. But he was like almost at the end, and it was just a quick. It was just a quick.
I think
jab.
It's funny when you know that guy.
Yeah.
It's especially okay.
And there was only comics in the room.
There's not a context in it's like if I'm a host that roast somebody, and obviously that guy won't know I'm joking.
Yeah.
Like Austin did that to me. It's like, it's just for fun, and I love it. I was hosting Main Tap last week for the Main Tap open mic, and as a host, it was like my second time hosting. Right that day, I forgot to close the door on the TV that's literally above me, and as a host, I did the first set, and then the moment Austin went, I was like, How To, let me teach you how to host. First, you close the TV, so everyone is actually listening to you, not watching the TV. I was like, you motherfucker, like you probably, and I, because me and him we're cool. So that roast is fun in nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense? I think there's a lot of context behind the roast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I don't know you at all, then that's a little different.
Okay, well, we probably should have you come back on the podcast to talk more because we're running out of time. But how do people get a hold of you on social media?
Oh, just follow me on Hao Tu for real, HAO 24 real, 24 for Kobe. Not because of work ethic, because my hair situation. Yeah, so follow me there. I try to post, but yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so we'll end the episode and then do a quick promo. All right. So, thank you for watching. This has been Comedy or Worse. Bye.